Hello Animal Communicators, and welcome to this week's live and completely free power training. Your place to come for all your hints, tips and sometimes complete strategies in how to up-level your animal communication work. Today I'm really excited to be following on from last week's topic of how to master effective questions. So today I'm going to be diving in with some real live examples of where the ordinary animal communicator stops. And if you've been following me for a while, you will know that I don't want you to be ordinary. I want you to be an extraordinary animal communicator. So I'll be sharing with you some examples that I've come across either in my students' work when I'm doing their one-to-one assessments and feedback calls, or when I'm working and supporting and mentoring professional animal communicators who just want to be checking in that they are being the best that they can be. So I'll be sharing examples from these two sources with you in this training. But first, just in case you don't know me or you're new to my channel or my Facebook group, my name is Sarah Jane LeBlanc. I am a professional animal communicator, mentor and trainer, and I have been doing this work now for 20 years, or just over 20 years. And whilst I train people just like you to become not just ordinary animal communicators but extraordinary animal communicators, I train right from beginner level all the way through to professional practitioner level and beyond. So I work with professional practitioners as well. But what I've discovered in the last 10 years or so is that my zone of genius is working with those who want to be or who already are working as professional animal communicators. I know this to be my zone of genius because it's where I am most passionate, it's what I get most excited about, and it's where I can really help you get your biggest results. And so that's why every single intake, without fail, students on my programme achieve results that paid professional practitioners, sometimes with years of experience, have not been able to make the same sustained long-term change. So it's all about bringing more than 30 years of trained therapist work and certified coaching work to the animal communication table. So I take all my people skills and I wrap them up in such a way that I can translate them really easily for you to help you become a better animal communicator, where you can really use the people skills to dig down, get more information and add depth. And that's what we've been looking at the last couple of weeks, mastering the art of effective questions. And everything in this training that I deliver on my programme, I've got a training next week. Stay posted if you want to hear more about that. Everything on that training is from my people skills, and it's using these approaches and these strategies that really help you add so much depth to your animal communication work. But more importantly, it's where you make your biggest difference, which in turn means it's where we have the biggest difference, and for the animals, it's where the animals experience the biggest difference. So what I want to focus on today is the first part of mastering effective questions. So last week, if you haven't watched last week's, I did an overview of the importance of mastering effective questions and how it can impact your work. And what I want to look at today is some examples of where the ordinary animal communicator stops and showing you where you can go beyond that. And then next week at the live class, I'll be taking these examples that I'm working with today and I'll be showing you how you can dig down even further. So let's get started. The cases that I've got for you today are all behavioural. And I wanted to start with behavioural work because that's usually the area where most people struggle and the area where most people want to create the biggest difference, create long-lasting, sustainable change, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And sometimes we don't even get to the bottom of what the behaviour is. And this is where your effective questions can come in really, really handy. So the first example that I have from you is a dog who is jumping up and biting when being taken out on a walk. So it's a behavioural issue that the behaviour is not only unwanted, but the behaviour is actually becoming a little bit on the dangerous side. The biting is getting a little bit more intense and the guardian just really wants to get to the bottom of this and change that behaviour. So the student has been communicating with the dog, and at one point in the conversation, she asks the dog outright and said, what is it that you do, when you're jumping up and biting at her? What is it that you're trying to achieve here? Now that's a good enough question, so we can really get to the bottom of what drives this dog's behaviour. And the dog replied, I'm showing her my position. And this is where it gets interesting. The ordinary animal communicator will often stop there. There's your answer. We now know why the dog is jumping up and sometimes nipping, because he's asserting his position. He's showing his guardian his position as he sees it as a top dog. There's your answer. Move on to the next question. That's not what we do here at Pet Whisperer. That is not your answer. All you've got there is an understanding of what drives the behaviour. We want to go beyond that. If we want to create effective, long-term, sustainable change, we want to go beyond that. So the student went ahead and asked another question, which was, I had all these out on my laptop and my laptop's crashed, so I'm doing them from memory. So the student then followed that up with a question around that he didn't need to show, so it wasn't so much a question, it was more a statement. And it was a factual statement that he didn't need to show his dominance in that way because, she asked him, why did he need to demonstrate his position? Why did he need to demonstrate his position? And he then said, because I want her to be proud of my position. That was the second question. And his response was, so that she can be proud of my position. Then, so again, you could stop there. So we know what's driving the behaviour, and we know an added driver is because he wants his mum to be proud of him. Like, wow, that's all he wants, is for her to feel proud of him. And so he's jumping up and he's nipping and he's biting and he's doing all of that behaviour that the guardian does not want. So again, we could stop there. But the student goes on and asks another question, or should I say makes a statement. And she knows, because she's already liaised with the guardian, that she is already proud of her boy. She doesn't need this demonstration of position to be proud of him. So the student then follows that up with a statement around, do you know that your mum's already proud of you? You don't need to be able to, you don't need to jump up and do that to demonstrate your position. She's already proud of you. And then the dog's response was, but I get excited when we go out on a walk, and that's how I like to show how I like to show her my position and my top dog place in this small pack. So there we now have layers. Can you see these layers? We could have stopped at question 1. Student added in another question. We could have stopped at that second position. Student added another piece in, and we've got a bit more clarity about what is going on with this dog. So you might think, first position was okay, there was response there. Second position was better. Third position even better than that. What I want to share with you is how you can make that so much bigger, so much better, and much more impactful, and certainly in terms of creating permanent resolution to this jumping up and biting issue. But I'm going to leave you with those pieces right now. And there's a reason that I'm doing that. It's really important, the way the brain works, for us to start opening up the questioning, the curiosity, to think, well, why was that not good enough to stop there? Why was that not okay to just give that as the feedback? That looks to me like we've got it sorted. So I really want you to think about these. Spend this next week percolating these, and I'll come back and I'll dig down on where I've directed the student to go, because that's where the student stopped, and I've put some teaching in to really expand that so they can be asking different questions and getting much more depth, and more importantly more understanding, so you can get straight to not just resolving the jumping issue, but resolving it in a long-term, permanent, sustainable way. But I really want to leave you with these questions so you can start to be thinking about, oh, is that what I do in my work? This is where these classes are powerful, because you can go away and think, do I do that? Is that where I stop? Or would I have asked something else? I'm not sure, but what would I ask? So you know that there's another place that you can go here. So there's your thinking tank for the next week. Where else would you go? Where would you have stopped, and where else would you go? So that's one example of a behaviour case. Another example is with a competing dog, a beautiful border collie, very smart, fast, good at what she does. But the guardian was starting to become concerned about whether she wanted to compete. And that was really the basis of the consultation, because there was some behavioural stuff going on around the competition ring. So the piece that I want to share with you is where The student had already got to the bottom of kind of what was going on, but the piece that I want to share with you that's really quite important is that the guardian, because she loves her dog and just wants her dog to be happy, which is your perfect guardian, your perfect client, she wanted her dog to know that if she did not want to compete, she did not have to, and she was not going to be forced to do that. And that was really important that the guardian shared that with the dog, and the dog was clear on that point. So the conversation went something like, do you know that you don't have to compete if you don't want to? And the dog was like, really? Is that an option? That I don't have to? And the student said, yes, your mum wants you to be happy, she loves you. And if you don't want to compete, she's not going to make you compete. And the dog was really quite like, wow, I've got a choice here, which was beautiful. It's like, really, you don't have to do this. And then the dog was thinking about this comment, and then replied with this response. Said, well, there's parts of it that I do like. I like the speed, I like the agility, I like sniffing. I just don't like the being judged part, but the rest of it is okay. And then the conversation then went on. And the conversation went on in the direction of how to support the dog in these areas that she did enjoy, so that she could be happier and feel better, etc., etc. So what I want to share with you around here in terms of effective questions, and it really is an art, and I was teaching on this last night to the students on my programme, and I've had feedback calls this morning with students that have one-to-one assessments with me as part of their programme, and the same topic is coming up. This is an art, and I want you to know that it's an art as well. You don't just listen to a masterclass in effective questions and you've got it. You need to practice, and this is what we're seeing students on the programme doing. They're practising, they're putting in the teachings, and we don't always get it right first time. So I want to share that with you, that this is an art and it does require a bit of practicing. And with that last piece around the competition work, I want to leave you with that, because you might think that that's understood now. You understand what's going on for the dog, what she likes, what she doesn't like, and how you can help her feel more comfortable in the competing arena. But what I want to leave you with as an extra piece to think about around that is there's a great big gaping hole in that conversation that has to be filled in order to have true long-term sustainable change, or even short-term change. So I'm just going to leave you, because I really want you to be thinking, like, where is that? What is it that's missing? What's not been picked up on? And that's your clue. What's not been picked up on there? What's been missed there? That is absolutely essential to create that change. And this is the piece that I was talking last night with the students on the training class. This is an art, and we need to practice it. And I want you to think about when you reflect on your work, because most of us will do a piece of work, even if it's a great piece of work with lots of wowsy parts in it, we will always have that part of the brain that says, well, maybe I could have asked that differently, or maybe I could have done something better. And if that's coming up for you, and you're listening to some of these examples thinking, oh, that's exactly what I've done in the past, and you're thinking, oh, right, so what should I do differently? I want you to know that, take the premise that everything is just an opportunity for a do-over. So this is the new expression that I'm coining here at Pet Whisperer. If you had the opportunity to do that again, what would you do differently? And I want to leave you with that too. It's really, really powerful. If you had the opportunity to do that piece of work again, what would you do differently? Because here's the thing. If you're showing up every week in my practice group to do the weekly practice, you have an opportunity every week to do that again. If you are already working professionally and you've got clients, you have an opportunity with every new client to do that again. So it's a really powerful question to ask yourself. If I had the opportunity to do this again, what would I do differently? And so I really want you to be seeing this as not as something that you can nail in one class or in one session, but it's a habit and a practice. It's an art. That's why the class next week is called The Art of Mastering Effective Questions. And I think the piece that came up for me today in a one-to-one feedback with professional practitioner is getting really clear on what outcome are you looking for with your question, what answer do you want to get to, and then matching your question to that. That's how you work smarter in this work. That's how you make bigger impact in less time, because you're working with a very clear agenda and you know what questions you want to be asking in order to get the desired outcome. So important, because if you know that where you want to get to in your consultation, then you are able to start thinking about the best way to ask those questions. And here's the thing, excuse me, trials and tribulations of having a cat, because here's the thing, if you're just asking questions and trying to get to whatever the issue is, or answer the questions that the guardian's got, you become kind of like solution focused, and you really want to be focused on the animal, be led by the animal, and really have that sense of direction and purpose to every question you ask. Every question you ask, you want to know in advance what your expected outcome from that is. That is how you work smarter in this work. This is how you are more effective. This is how you make bigger impact, because everything is intentional instead of being incidental or even accidental. So a couple of extra teaching points in there that I hadn't really planned to go into today, but absolutely hold that thought around what would I do differently if I had another go at this, because you always will if you're showing up for practice or you're working professionally. And then to be thinking about what is it you're trying to achieve, and then wrap your questions around that. So be very directive in your question, and that's where the mastery comes in. It's that place, because one good question, and these examples that I've given you today, I'll be unpicking them at the training next week, and I will show you where just changing the wording ever so slightly in one of those questions, or just altering the question slightly so the outcome is slightly different, opens up a whole new world where you are able to get right to the bottom of that issue in one or two questions, instead of what the student did, which was a good 20-25 minutes of going around the houses and going down rabbit holes. So this is where we really want to skill up. So these examples are real. I left an example last week, and I talked you through the example last week. Did an example last week in body scanning, and I gave clear direction of what other questions you could be asking. This week, those two on behaviour, I'm leaving you with that very deliberately and intentionally, so you can start to think, oh, is that how I do it? Do I do it differently? What do I do differently? What would I want to do differently? Really helps open up the mind, that inquiry part of the mind, which we all have. But really, this is an art. It takes time, it takes practice, and if you want to know more about how to master the art of effective questioning, then please, if you haven't already let me know you want to join, just type me in the comments, and I will make sure to reach out to you with all the details of the live training, which will be happening next week, 14th at 6 p.m. UK time. And I'll be diving down into 14 different ways that you can structure your questions, but also know why you're doing them in that way. So remember, I was talking about outcome. Be clear on what outcome you want. When you know what outcome you want, you will know what kind of question you want to ask. And then I'll also be sharing with you the one thing never, ever, ever to do. And that came up in one of these pieces of work with a student that I've shared with you today. So I really can't wait to dive into that even more deeply. And if you want to join me, just type me in the comments below, and I'll make sure that you've got all the details when they are ready to go, which will be tomorrow. So I hope you are enjoying this approach on effective questioning. It really is the one golden piece that will elevate your work from ordinary to extraordinary in every area of animal communication work. This is the piece that will make you extraordinary. This is the piece that will allow you to make your biggest impact as an animal communicator, but more importantly, allow you to create the biggest impact for the animals and the people that you work with. See you next week. Until then, happy communicating always.